A church member was talking to his pastor about prayer. And when the topic turned to the best prayer that the member had ever heard without skipping a beat, he said it was, "Dear God, please help me to be the person my dog thinks I am." I like that prayer. Dogs have faith in us no matter what, and none of us can match what our dogs think of us. I know I can't. I'm sure that Seeley Booth, our rescued German Shepherd, pretty much thinks I'm a magical creature that can reach into a magic bag and pull out supper. If he stands at certain places along the wall, I can turn an enchanted knob that opens a portal to the world. And when we get outside, all I have to do is attach a bewitched cord on him, and he gets to explore all sorts of things well beyond our front yard. If God helped me be the person my dog thought I was through prayer, I'm pretty sure I'd be Harry Potter, maybe even Albus Dumbledore. Of course, we know that's not possible. I could pray and pray and pray and have everyone pray that I become as magical as Albus Dumbledore, but sadly, we all know that will not succeed. Indeed, if I told you that one day I would be that magical or magical at all, we'd find it laughing. Magic, in the sense that I'm talking about, is not something we've ever seen in our life experiences. That's what makes it funny. It's fiction. Prayers to have it seem nonsensical. But there are things in life we may pray for that are not nonsense or not magical. They may seem improbable odds-wise, but there are at least some sort of odds that might occur. Anything from a war ending, to overcoming racism, to someone coming home safe after missing, to disease not being found during an exam, to illness going away, to a relationship healing, to getting a new job, to meeting someone, to falling in love, to getting pregnant. The list is endless. Today's story seems to most of us modern world people to be about an improbable to us type prayer being answered. But we need to recognize the story was written in a very different time. If we were to time travel to that culture, we'd be almost completely disoriented. As my Old Testament professor put it, it'd be like going to another world. And a part of its disorientation is that it was a very non-scientific time when supernatural intervention was not considered out of the realm of possibility. Maybe magic happened. Appeasements of God could maybe have an effect on nature. In some ways, many today still sort of think along those lines in the West, that we tend to temper it with a sense of science. We know it could stop raining, so we might pray for that, but we are aware it's not possible for, say, a 90-year-old woman to become pregnant. So I doubt that many of us would pray for her to have the baby. I'm guessing she'd be thankful about that too. If we think about it, without the understanding of science that we take for granted, much of the way the world operates can seem like magic. Even today, from little things like winter snowflakes, spring blossoms, summer fireflies, and autumn leaves, to bigger things like the universe, life, and birth. They all have a sort of magic, a great wonder to them. And this is especially so with birth and life. And so in Genesis, there are these great stories about the great wonder of creation and life and birth that resonate with us still. The lack of a sense of modern science can make Bible stories disconcerting at times. The Bible starts out with this broad view of creation, what we moderns can imagine as an aerial view. And then the view narrows down in on humankind, telling the story of how humans relate to God, creation, to each other. Old Testament lectionary reading this summer includes a number of chapters and verses from Genesis. These are formative stories for both the Judaism of Jesus and his followers, as well as the gospel writers who came a generation or more later. These stories are therefore also formative for us as Christians, even modern Christians. And so I hope it's going to go over a number of them. It is important that we at least hear the stories read by our liturgists, and then hopefully feel that the sermon helps us both remember them and understand them better, or at least to think about them. We heard the Genesis broader aerial view section last week on creation and how it zooms in on a special section of humankind's creation. Our story today narrows the focus down further on Abraham and Sarah and God. We find them in our reading gathered at a sacred place called the Oaks of Mamre. And I think it's important that we hear at least a summary of what has transpired in the story up to this point. Prior to this, we've been shown these two human characters as having amazing faith in God, responding without batting an eye to God's call to leave and go to the promised land. And in return, God has promised to make Abraham a great nation and to bless him, and that in him all families of the earth shall be blessed. And it's important to understand that the Bible story as a whole is not about a faith where the main character of God sets out to only bless a select group. If you take only one thing home from the lesson and the sermon today, remember that the Bible starts out and is infused throughout with stories of faith journey, religious ways intended to provide blessings for all families on earth. Abraham, when he starts out, by the way, is known as Abram, and he's already 75 years old. He and Sarah, then known as Sarai, who's 65, traveled with some of their family to Canaan, the promised land. The stories about Abraham and Sarah tend to focus on their remarkable faith. They have a faith so powerful that they are the founding father and mother of three major religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In each of those faith traditions, they epitomize good and faithful believers. And after Sarah and Abraham arrive in the promised land, there's a severe famine, and so they travel to Egypt, where they live as alien refugees. And Abraham is worried a resident of Egypt might kill him as an alien to take his wife Sarah. So he concocts a plan for them to tell everyone Sarah is his sister. Sarah would be his property as either husband or brother, but only as a brother can he give her away. I told you it's very foreign. It can be a disturbing time for us. Sure enough, 65-year-old Sarah catches the attention of Pharaoh, and he takes her as a wife. And Abraham, as the putative brother, is given livestock and servants in gratitude in the exchange. And then things get spooky, weird for Pharaoh's household. They suffer plagues. And Pharaoh wants to find out why and appease God or the gods to end the trouble. And he's very, very upset when he finds out that Sarah is a married woman. And to end what he thinks is a divine curse for his adultery, Pharaoh gives Sarah back to Abraham and makes the entire clan leave Egypt. And the clan travels back to the promised land and splits up. Abraham and Sarah settling in the plain of Mamre. And after settling, the rest of the clan that split apart gets into trouble. And Abraham rescues them with a small army. Later, Abraham has a vision. God repeats the promise of the promised land and abundant descendants for him and Sarah. And Abraham and Sarah try to make sense of this, given their barrenness and old age. And Sarah decides she needs to give Abraham a second wife, her slave, Hagar, who becomes pregnant. Sarah mistreats her, so Hagar flees. And alone in the desert, runaway Hagar has her own encounter with God. And God convinces Hagar to return to the safety of the clan and to give birth to a son, Ishmael. Abraham is 86 at the time. And 13 years go by, and then 99-year-old Abraham is alone, and he receives receives instructions from God for a covenant that include the need for all males of age to be circumcised. And in that encounter, God also blesses Sarah and tells Abraham that Sarah, who's 90, will have their son. Alone with God when he hears this, Abraham laughs at the thought. Okay, that's a summary of what's happened in the Abraham and Sarah story leading up to today's lectionary lesson, where we find Abraham sitting in a sacred place in the heat of the day. And three men approach. We know they represent God, but Abraham doesn't know that yet. To these strangers who are very, very vulnerable in a foreign land without local help, Abraham offers quintessential hospitality. In spite of his being the head of a clan, he himself bows to them and offers to wash their feet and feed them. And he provides more than just bread and water. He provides a feast under the shade of the sacred trees outside his tent, which Sarah safely resides in. One of the visitors tells Abraham that he'll be back next year, and by then Sarah will have a son. Sarah overhears this from inside the tent and laughs about the prospect of them conceiving a son in their 90s. The visitor asks Abraham why his wife is laughing. Abraham is accountable since he failed to tell Sarah the news he got previously from God, that she will bear the child at 90. Sarah, unprepared, laughed at the idea just as Abraham had. One of the remarkable parts about this story is Sarah and Abraham, who are usually portrayed as full of faith, are portrayed as having doubts. Sarah asks, is there anything too wonderful for the Lord? It can be heard as both an affirmation and a questioning. She and her husband have justifiable doubts. Modern people, hearing that a 90-year-old woman and a 99-year-old man, long promised children, will get them, have a right in our minds, as do all listeners, to scoff, to laugh at that idea. Even for those who don't understand science or want to suspend its application to the story, get why it's laughable to think that the unthinkable could happen. But back then, and today, there are some who consider it possible with supernatural intervention. And we know for sure, as a matter of science, that a 90-year-old couple could no more biologically conceive in their 90s than I could have the powers of Albus Dumbledore in my 50s. But back then, bending the laws of nature-type miracles apparently may have been prayed for, believed in. There's a superstitious nature that pervades pre-science history, and even some people's beliefs today. Part of the disorientation of the ancient world is that it was very non-scientific time, and supernatural intervention was not considered out of the realm of the possibility. Magic maybe happen. Appeasement of God could maybe have an effect on nature. In our experiences, the laws of nature are not defied, but followed. And we can choose to disregard that, and anyone here has the right to do so, but for those of us who cannot cancel out the scientifically trained part of our brains, we need to find meaning in the story beyond the supernatural happening. And I think we do the story a disservice if we think that the truth of the story lies in believing that God bends the laws of nature for those who are faithful, that this event is a matter of history, and that is the point. God actually made a 90-year-old woman pregnant. And again, I'm not begrudging anyone the right to believe that. I'm addressing the fact that many of us can't. And my point is that either way, the truth of the story does not lie in its historicity. It lies in the metaphoric meaning that all our lives long, God seeks blessings for us. God wants blessings for us, for all families on earth. Our well-being matters to God. And there's nothing too wonderful for the Lord, provided it is within the realm of the possible. In Bible times, it may have been thought that literally God could and would not just bend, but break the laws of nature. The evidence in our science-based lives is that's not true. Reason dictates that I cannot be a magical being, and 90-year-old women do not conceive children. Nonetheless, faithfulness can alter reality. That's the ultimate truth in the story. Faith can, and it does, bring the work of God into human hands and feet and voices, and in return the image of God, part of every person, can be blessed. Abraham and Sarah blessed God in strangers with amazing hospitality. They demonstrate how humans are to tend to the well-being of others. It's about having a faith journey, following a religious way, intending to provide blessings to all, whether we know them or not. Our nourishing, caring, hospitable God wants nourishing, caring, hospitable followers. Because tending to the well-being of others blesses all families on earth, the entire world, all whom God loves. It leads to others doing it, and so continues on and on and on for generations. Such conduct changes a world barren of blessings to one bountiful in blessings. Such conduct changes strangers' sense of unwelcome and even of being cursed as aliens to a sense of welcome and blessing. The metaphor possibilities, the symbolic meaning of this story are many, and I'm honing in on one suggestion that Abraham and Sarah's care for the well-being of others beneath the oaks of Mamre begat the God-spark in others to do the same for others, begatting generation after generation that care. The offspring of Abraham and Sarah can, on one level, be understood as a new faith, a path to humbly walk with God, a path that was born of love and continues on in 3 religions and most of their adherents. Abraham and Sarah conceive and give birth to a faithful way to experience God and be in relationship with God. It is a way that cares for others as God does, regardless of benefits. And whether they are actually rewarded or promised with a reward for being hospitable, Abraham and Sarah are caring to strangers regardless. For years they want a child, and even when that desire was denied, they remain faithful. They trailblaze a loving path to God for all people, not just elites, in a time and place where religions were understood to have God's side only with the elite. Sarah and Abraham are remarkable for giving birth to generations and generations of adherents to paths that lovingly lead to God and care and nurture of God in others. You see, the point of the story can be understood not as Sarah and Abraham begetting progeny of their flesh, but by being a blessing to others, they begat generations of faithful who follow their example and provide blessings that continue through the ages, one way or another. Truth is, their acts of being faithful and tending to the well-being of others begat generations of those who care, including us. In the ancient world of not caring for strangers, for aliens and refugees, that may have seemed impossible. Thankfully, it wasn't.